Hello out there everybody, and welcome back to my toy channel. It has been a little while since I last uploaded because, if you couldn't tell by my other channel, things have been popping off a little bit, both in terms of politics and gaming. As a result, I've needed to focus my attention on that channel to help grow it because I am basically doing content creation as a full-time job. Fortunately, that meant that this channel languished for a bit, but I wanted to come back and make something that I've been meaning to make for a while, and that is a tutorial on some toy photography. If you guys don't know and you don't follow me on social media like Twitter or Instagram, you might not know that not only do I collect toys, but I mostly collect them for the purpose of doing toy photography. I have done photography as a hobby for years, but being able to do it with toys and on such a smaller scale with such cool subject matter has only made me more passionate about picking it up again as an art form and really putting time and effort into it, even if it's just for my own personal enjoyment. And the reason I really wanted to make some tutorial videos on it is not only have I had people ask me to show my process on some of the pictures that I post on social media, but I think a lot of people have a misconception that toy photography, when you see it on social media, requires these big setups and lots of really expensive lighting and equipment, and that's just not true. In fact, it's been my experience that more often than not, the most expensive thing you'll buy in toy photography is the figure itself. So to kick off this little series of tutorial videos I may end up doing, I wanted to show how I went about making a tribute using the NECA 40th anniversary The Thing figure based on, of course, Drew Struzan's iconic The Thing poster art from John Carpenter's 1982 classic. For a little while, I've been wanting to do a kind of tribute piece, not necessarily remaking the exact poster because it's a much more artistic venture than I think I could accomplish with just photography, but to pay tribute to it and capture the vague essence of the piece. So to do that, I want to walk through some of the first things that I did and the first things I got, because you don't need all sorts of really expensive pieces and sets. In fact, for all of the set design for this picture, I would say I paid less than $10. First off, I want to talk about the ice chunks that are in the photo, and I use those very sparingly, only along the outside to give the photo more depth, so you can kind of have one up close and one behind it to give the entire thing a feeling that you're actually looking over a snowy waste. Now, these are from the Star Wars Black Series Rey from 2015, I believe, and you can get this set complete with Rey for a pretty good price online still, last time I checked. And I totally recommend it if you want to get into toy photography, because you never know when you can use ice, and if you play with the coloring behind them, you can make them even appear like rocks. On eBay, I've seen this set go for as low as $12 to $15, but I got it at a toy show for about $5. And here's the thing I would always recommend is I recommend everybody go to toy shows and their local toy stores and find bits and pieces of old playsets that nobody wants anymore. For example, here's a Spider-Man gargoyle from 2001 that I found. I think I got it for $3 from a toy store because the owner just didn't know what it was. And then here's a photo I've done on it, and I will do another tutorial on that later. That is just to say that so many of the props that I use in these photos, I get either on clearance at craft stores, and I'll talk about craft stores in a second, or just from random item bins at toy shows and toy stores. I wish I could give better advice on where you could go to find things like this at a really cheap price, but the best advice I can give is to just keep your eye out, because you never know what you might want or need later down the line. And speaking of craft stores, everything else here I got for this, I got for just mere dollars at a craft store. That includes the different backgrounds I used, and of course the snowy waste, which is actually this kind of bendable foam paper that as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect for a snow ground, and it looks amazing, especially when the light reflects off of it, giving it that actual glittery effect of freshly fallen snow. So once you actually have the things like your set design, the next thing is going to be lighting. And here's where I think a lot of people want really powerful lights that they can get off of Amazon, or they might get suckered into buying like 6 packs of lights, or just, things that look really cool. But the ones that I have are actually really, really simple. I have a light bar that I think was maybe $10-12 at Walmart. And then for this one, I'm using a halo light, which gives a kind of spectrum effect that I both experiment with behind the paper and in front of it. And the halo light, again, I think I got maybe for $20 at Walmart. And I can't express, as somebody who does a lot of photography, the halo light is one of my favorite lights ever, and I practically use it for everything because it gives such bright colors, and it can be applied to pretty much any color setting feeling that you want to convey. Now, once you've got things like your set design and your lighting, you generally want to have an idea in mind for the kind of photo you want to take. I do like experimenting with photos. I've done plenty of photo sets where I'm just spending hours moving things around and kind of seeing what works and what doesn't. And I'll get to that in a bit. But for this, like I mentioned at the beginning, I went into this project wanting to pay tribute to the original poster. So I had an idea of the pose I wanted and where I wanted the figure to be placed in the shot. And that gives you a lot to go off of because you're going to be basing all of the set design around that. So, like you can see here in the video, everything is centered around the Thing figure. And this brings up one of my most important things to remember, which is that when you take the picture, you only want to have your set and your figure in the shot. So you might look at something and be like, oh my gosh, look at this mess that's on this table, look at all these figures on the outside, but you can zoom in, you can play with the camera, you have control over what the camera sees, and even after you take the picture, you can zoom in and edit and clip out things that you might not like. For example, in the final pictures, I play around with a lot of stuff, and that is one of the other big things I cannot stress enough if you want to take up toy photography or any kind of photography, is get different angles, try different lighting setups, try maneuvering the lighting around, doing double lighting, one color of light from one side, a different color from the other side, because you never know what crazy cool visuals you can come up with, sometimes even by accident. Some of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken have been complete accidents. Which, as we look at some of the finished photos I did, you can absolutely see here. Some of them aren't as good as others. Some of them are a little bit farther away, a little bit closer. And then this isn't even including all the ones that, I ended up completely deleting or throwing away. Which brings me to another thing about photography in general, is that this is an art form that is not frustration proof. You will not get the perfect ideal shot on your first try, probably. It takes a lot of experimentation, and that takes time and energy. Hell, there have been times where I've even wanted to get a perfect shot and had to come back the next day because it got too late and I was just getting frustrated and couldn't quite find what I was looking for. But like we're seeing here, once you have all the elements, once you have your set design, which again you can get for cheap at a variety of sources, once you have your lighting, which again are not too terribly expensive pieces of lighting I'm using here, those are the most important parts. And then you want to go in, like I said, with an idea predetermined, or if you're just experimenting, be patient with it. And don't just try different poses for the figure. Try entirely different angles, try entirely different zooms, try entirely different lighting setups. You'd be surprised some of the cool stuff you can do with lighting, even on like I've used the light on my iPad sometimes to get really great stark lights that just create an amazing dramatic effect. Which is kind of what we see here. I was actually really happy with how some of these pictures turned out, even the kind of red edits I did where I thought, hey, you know what, let me try a red light because it's not 100% accurate, it's just meant to be a tribute, and I had a lot of fun with it. So once you have your pictures, what I've started doing, and I am by no means an expert at this, but I can give some tips on digital manipulation and digital photography. Because I had this one and I thought, man, this is one of my favorite shots, but there are a couple things I want to change, or just a couple things I'd like to add that I think would really make it pop. For example, the Starry Night background with the deep blue kind of looks like snow, so I was wondering, could I add like kind of a snowstorm effect? And also one of the kind of cloudy parts in the background almost looks like the thing itself is breathing that kind of cold, cloudy air that you see when it gets really cold out. Can I embellish that effect? So again, the best thing I can recommend here is you're going to want to go online and just kind of look for whatever you want, and I would look for PNG files. And the important thing here is to know what opacity is, because when you import a file, for example, like we're seeing here, into a picture, you'll want to lower the opacity because otherwise it's gonna look wrong. And this is another case, much like lighting, where you're gonna have to fiddle around with it until it looks right. But as we see here, after I fiddled around with it for a little bit, it doesn't look entirely natural, no, but I think it looks pretty cool. And with that in mind, I think that's about the end of this first video that I can do. So let me know what you thought of this down below. Let me know if you're going to try using any of these techniques, or even if you have the Thing figure or similar figures and you might want to try and do a simple snowy photo shoot like the one I did. As always, be sure to follow me at my other channel, and then as well on my Instagram if you want to see more of my toy photography and my stand-up comedy, and then of course on Twitter where I post pretty much everything I do. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.